I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is a Fear and Greed extended interview. All the other good bits we couldn't fit into the daily podcast. If you're looking for the daily episode of Fear and Greed, check the podcast playlist. Otherwise, enjoy the interview. Adore Beauty has all the hallmarks of a classic business success story. Kate Morris started the online beauty retailer from a garage in Melbourne in 1999 at the age of just 21 with co-founder James Height. Fast forward more than 2 decades to 2020 when Adore Beauty listed on the ASX in one of the most public IPOs last year. And now with first half revenue of more than $96 million, it's a business that's growing and exceeding its own forecasts. The numbers are impressive, almost 11,000 products across 260 brands and hundreds of thousands of active customers in Australia and New Zealand. But retail is a very tough market, and Adore is up against some serious opposition, both here and overseas. I'm pleased to say Kate Morris, founder and executive director of Adore Beauty, is my guest this morning. Kate, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Morning, Sean. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Now, can you give us a thumbnail sketch of Adore Beauty, how you went from your garage in Melbourne 22 years ago to listing last year?
Yes, gosh, just, a potted 21-year history. Look, it was a bootstrap story for a very long time. I decided to start the business with James when I was working on the Clarence counter, actually, and saw how a lot of the customers coming into the department stores to buy beauty found that experience pretty unpleasant, and it's pretty hard sell environment, and it's all a bit intimidating. And to my way of thinking, beauty should be something that's fun and something that you do to make you feel confident, a bit of an act of self-care. And so it didn't make any sense to me that the shopping experience was making people feel differently. And so, yes, we were actually the first online beauty store to start in Australia. So as a clueless 21-year-old working out of my garage, we borrowed $12,000 from James's dad, which was, just kind of enough to buy a little bit of stock and get a website built, and very slowly and painstakingly grew the business over, 20 odd years. So we were pretty much bootstrapped for most of the journey, which I guess gives you a lot of discipline around having to find a business model that works, because if you don't, you don't eat. So, and premium beauty, the important thing to understand about it is a very high trust and emotive purchase. And so the thing that took the long time was really building up all of the relationships that we have with over 260 brands, while at the same time building up that trusted relationship with our customers as well.
I'll get onto the listing in a moment, but you just mentioned that you are very focused on loyalty, and you recently released Adore Society, which is a loyalty program. And in kind of interviews done by senior managers of the group, they continually talk about repeat customers. Just how important is it, if you can get someone to access Adore Beauty and purchase a product, how important is that you can get them to purchase a second one? Is that easier than actually trying to find a new person?
Yeah, the returning customer story is actually the most important thing to kind of understand about our business, particularly as it compares to other retailers. So I guess the thing that we've been building over all of this time is these sticky cohorts of returning customers who come back onto the platform every year. And what we see is that every year that they stay with us, they purchase more frequently and they spend more with every purchase. And so that returning customer base is really kind of a key point to understand. I think 64% of our revenues are coming from returning customers who come back to the platform over and over. And that's what you see again with that high trust purchase in premium beauty. Once people get to love the experience that you can offer and the range of brands that you can offer, then they do come back. And so that's been our slow process of trying to convert every new customer that tries us out into a returning customer. And I guess that's kind of what happened with COVID, is that we had this kind of once in a blue moon opportunity to welcome over 500,000 new customers onto our platform in that last year. And so I guess that's our hope, is that we can, in the same way that we have been for the last 20 odd years, convert those into customers that will continue to come back and be more valuable as they return.
So how do you keep those 500,000 customers that, thanks to the pandemic and other things, visited Adore for the first time?
Mm-hmm. Look, we've been investing pretty heavily in our customer experience for many, many, many years. And I mean, we have an NPS that's kind of pushing 80 odd.
That's a net promoter score?
Yes, net promoter score, sorry. Like a Google review score of 4.9 out of 5.
But you have 4.9 out of 5 on Google reviews, and we're talking thousands of reviews. That's pretty impressive.
Look, we have worked hard on it for a really, really, really long time. And I think it's one of these things that possibly a lot of people consider a bit of a no-brainer to get e-commerce right. But there's a million little things that you have to do right. And you also have to consistently do them right over years and years and years. So we have customers who've been with us. I mean, we've got data going back to FY12 of customers who have been with us on the platform for that long. Now, if we let them down at any point and we don't make it right, then we recognise that we can't take them for granted. And so, yes, we've worked on that really hard, and it's a whole lot of unsexy things that happened in the background of e-commerce, like logistics software, and we also own our warehouse and inventory. And I think that's been a really big asset, and particularly with the number of products that we have, that means that we can provide that same consistent and smooth experience every single time a customer orders from us.
Where do most of your products come from? Where are they manufactured?
They come from all over the world. So we have a pretty big chunk of Australian products. So I think that's around about 30%. But yeah, they come from all over. So they come from the US, they come from Europe, they come from Korea. They come from everywhere.
So as a customer, and clearly I'll become one, as from this afternoon, I log on. What's the length of time till fulfillment?
If you ordered this morning and you're in the next day delivery network, which covers most of the capital cities, you will have it tomorrow.
Stay with me, Kate. We'll be right back. My guest this morning is Kate Morris, founder and executive director of Adore Beauty. I want to go back to the listing. Firstly, why did you list and how did you find the process?
The reason that we listed, and this was kind of the plan that we made with Quadrant Private Equity when we brought them on as majority partner back in 2019, was something that we'd been thinking about for a long time. And for me, I guess as being the founder of a business that's always been cash constrained and always been bootstrapped, I feel like we've done like a pretty amazing job really of growing organically. And I guess the analogy we use is that we got used to building a fire with green wood and no matches. But I think I always felt that Adore could be much bigger, and I wanted it to be in the position of no longer being cash constrained and having the opportunity to take all of the opportunities that there might be, now and into the future. And I also too think that the culture that we've created at Adore Beauty is something really genuinely pretty special and something that needs to be protected. And I guess my kids are too little to think about passing a family business on to them. So I guess I wanted to be in the position where, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, that the business is in a position to go on. But yes, how's the experience? Gosh.
Now, I just want to say, I have spoken to lots of people who have done IPOs, and pretty much the theory is that if I knew what was involved, I probably wouldn't have done it. Now, that might be overstating it, but there's a little bit of that in most IPOs, I think.
100%. We also too, we did the entire thing virtually from lockdown, and that was pretty tough. So 14 hours a day of Zoom calls, day after day after day after day after day. I think I could safely say I've never worked so hard in my life, and I've worked pretty hard.
You listed at $7. Now, you sort of listed at the time when retailers, and particularly e-commerce retailers, were at their peak, which is fantastic when you're looking to take money out of the business and that. Problem with that, though, of course, is that since then, e-commerce retailers have fallen in share price across the board, and Adore has been caught up in that as well. How much do you think about the share price? Does it worry you that it has fallen since December when you listed? I mean, how do you think about that part of it? Because you have plenty of shareholders now.
For sure. And I mean, I think I'd certainly take my responsibility to them extremely seriously. And particularly, I know there's a lot of women who invested in equities for the first time. It was actually kind of one of the coolest things about it was that I had so many women come to me and message me on socials saying, right, this is it. There's finally a company that I understand and I can get behind, and I'm going to figure out how to do this. I'm going to set up my broker account and I'm going to go. So I take my responsibility to them very seriously. And I guess, the market does what the market does. And our job is really to make sure that we keep delivering on what we've promised. And I mean, I think we were really proud of our results that we delivered for the first half of FY21. I mean,
So you beat forecast, didn't you? You beat the prospectus forecast.
yeah, exactly. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, that's our job. The market does whatever the market does. And I mean, I think everybody can see, at least I certainly hope they can, is that particularly if you look at other markets like the US and the UK, and then even further ahead to South Korea and China, Australia is still has a lot of room to go in terms of online penetration. So even after COVID, it's sitting at like 11%. You've got the UK now with non-grocery retail now at 40% online. I guess we've been consistently growing for the last 21 years, and we're going to keep doing that. And I guess that's all we can do, right?
I mean, you are up against some hugely powerful players and the Sephoras and Meccas of the world, but also the Amazons. And what is the thing that you would say Adore Beauty? What is your comparative advantage in cutting through?
Yeah, sure. I guess on one level, I'd point to our track record of how we have grown. If I think about where we were as a garage business 21 years ago with no money and really no right to compete against, these massive department stores. But I guess it's our willingness to disrupt and our capability to be quick and to be agile that's continued to enable us to establish a market leading position as far as online beauty retail goes. And I mean, Sephora entered the market in 2015. I think since then our business has gone like a rocket. So I guess in the way that we think about what we bring to premium beauty, it's kind of the combination of three things, and it's no one of them, but it's all three of them together. And so it's this brand portfolio of over 260 brands that we've spent, as I said, such a long time building up and developing those really deep trust-based relationships with our brand partners. And the brand portfolio that we have is actually unique in as far as the way that it combines prestige department store brands and professional brands and niche or specialist brands and masstige brands. So from a customer's perspective, it's very much a one-stop shop.
You just used one of my all-time favourite words, masstige, which is mass prestige. Just for the listeners there, I'm just clarifying that because I don't think it's a word, to be honest, Kate, but we'll let that slide.
I just said it. It is now. Yeah.
It is now, right. Fair enough. Okay, so that was the first
totally
one.
Is. In beauty, it definitely is.
Yeah, right, right.
So that's the first one is this brand portfolio. And the second one is, I mean, the customer experience that we've spoken about in terms of the levels of customer satisfaction. So yes, it's our fast delivery times, and it's the the free samples and the opportunities for trial that come in every box, and then even the little Tim Tam that we include, which we've been doing for so many years. It's kind of almost become a bit of a trademark. And
funny thing about that is that the first time I really knew of Adore Beauty, and this is quite a while ago now, was the Tim Tam, because someone in my household ordered something from Adore and there was a Tim Tam in it. And that's actually how I thought about, I mean, what a great marketing ploy. That's how I took notice of Adore Beauty from the beginning.
Yep. Well, there you go. It's basically what it sort of stands for is how we want our customers to feel about their beauty purchase. This is a treat. This is just for you. It's like it's one little individual one in its own packet. You don't even have to share it. So that incredible customer experience that, goes on and builds these really loyal and sticky cohorts of returning customers. And then the third thing is the content platform that we've built and the way that we're able to utilize our data set to deeply personalize the customer journey for everyone. I mean, effectively what that means is that for both our customers and our brands, we're a marketing partner for our brands, but for our customers, we're also a trusted source of information and a place where you can go and be educated and be entertained. I mean, we have the top 2 now fashion and beauty podcasts in Australia, which is pretty amazing for a retailer,
It's very amazing.
Yeah, well, the first of them's just passed 2 million downloads, which is just a little more than a year. Yeah, thank you. And so it's kind of the combination of these three things together. It really is this sort of end-to-end integrated media and retail platform that keeps customers coming back and also keeps our brand partners really happy.
We'll be back with more in a minute. I'm talking to founder and executive director of Adore Beauty, Kate Morris. Finally, you launched the Global Shades campaign to make the beauty industry more inclusive. You shared a story at the time about how you realised making decisions based largely on cash flow and inventory levels had meant you'd unintentionally excluded people of different colours. How important a lesson is it for corporate Australia about being, it is social responsibility, I suppose, but it's kind of bigger than that.
It is bigger than that. And for us, it goes back to our values. So the values are the really core thing of the Adore Beauty culture that I mentioned earlier that I think is so special. And two of those core values, one of them is doing the right thing. And that means we do the right thing by the community, by each other, by our customers, by our suppliers. But it also means that when you make a mistake, you own up to it and you do whatever needs to be done to make it right. And so it's that kind of integrity piece that is really fundamental, and that for me as a founder and a leader in the business, I absolutely need to live by, and I need to do that every day. And then the second of the values that comes into play there is always growing. And so I guess what that means is that, yes, if we do make a mistake, as part of that campaign, I acknowledge that it was my blind spot, myself and the rest of the people in decision-making capabilities, that it was my blind spot, and that we could fix it, and that once we know better, we can do better. And I think those values are really the core of what drives that particular campaign for us. But yes, I think businesses really need to be aware of the unintended consequences of decisions that they might be making, perhaps without enough diversity in their ranks or without enough. This only happened because we had a marketing manager who was able to use her experience to say, hey, actually, my experience will be reflective of the experience of many, many, many others, and this is not right. I'm so grateful for that.
Great thing about that story is it sort of brings integrity and commercialisation together, and they're on the same path in that instance. 10 years' time, where will Adore Beauty be?
Oh, gosh. Well, like world domination, obviously. But so I guess I think about that in a couple of different ways. And the first is in terms of the customer mission that we have. When we started in the garage 21 years ago, really the mission was to empower our customers to feel their most confident and fabulous selves. And so I guess, if we're succeeding, then we're achieving that for more and more and more customers as being in terms of the first place to start your journey of self-care. I've always believed that beauty is actually a self-care category. It's much, much more about that than it is about the way that you look. I think we have ambitions of being not just the biggest, online beauty business in Australia, but the biggest beauty business in Australia, New Zealand as well.
Beyond, yep.
Well, and we certainly plan for there to be some beyond by then. And then I also think about, I really want to be that kind of world's best example. And so I get asked the question a lot of, who do you think is doing like a really amazing job of this globally? And actually, I want everybody's answer to that in this industry to be Adore Beauty.
Fantastic. Kate, thanks for talking to Fear and Greed.
My absolute pleasure.
That was Kate Morris, founder and executive director of Adore Beauty.